Today presenting for Red Hat is Tim Burke, Red Hat's VP of Platform Engineering, and he's going to talk about Linux success factors in the enterprise. Come on out, Tim.
Thank you, Jim. Great to be here. Thanks. So my name is Tim Burke. I'm Vice President of Engineering Development at Red Hat, and I'm part of the team that delivers Red Hat Enterprise Linux, which, despite what the marketers would like, I'm going to refer to as RHEL during this presentation for brevity. And also we do the Fedora distribution as well. And I've been here at Red Hat for 11 years. Prior to that, I was at a Linux startup. And then before that, I was on the part of Digital Unix True 64 proprietary Unix operating system. So I've seen both sides of the fence. And so when we come down to contrasting and talking about the proprietary versus open source models, I've seen that firsthand. So let's just jump right in. Just as a quick agenda, so we have a grand total of about 15 minutes to talk about the complete history of Red Hat and open source, how we develop Red Hat Enterprise Linux, the result of, how do we measure success, where are we today, and where are we going in the future, and how are we adapting along the way. So simple as that. We'll try to cram that all in. So one of the real value adds and what really drove Linux is initially Unix to Linux migration. So it was really breaking the glass house barrier of the proprietary Unix operating systems. And I confess I was part of that. So what's the difference? What has it enabled? It's really enabled user-driven innovation. It's enabled freedom from vendor lock-in. It's enabled rapid innovation. So it's really been an exciting change. And when we came to Red Hat, at the time, it was just Red Hat Linux, which was quite similar to what we have today in Fedora. And it was nothing short of a major cultural shift at Red Hat. It was really traumatic initially because these outside guys came in, and if we had just taken what we had done before in the proprietary world and just done the same thing, it would have been disastrous. So we had to adapt along the way. And similarly, the way that we develop Red Hat Enterprise Linux, it constantly changes over the years that we've been here. So we'll look at some of the things, and towards the closing part, we'll talk about some of the changes that have been involved. One of our major challenges as a distribution provider, it's really bringing together a disparate set of parts. Because I like to draw this analogy that our distributions are made up of thousands of different projects, and it's literally in the thousands. You've got your kernel, compilers, GNOME desktop, Firefox browsers, KVM virtualization. The list goes on. And each of these galaxies are spinning in their own orbit somewhat independently. And so one of the real challenges of a distribution is to say, how do you know which versions of the package, which one's stable, which one's in development, how do they fit together? That's one of the tough parts of what we have to do. But the other part of putting the E in Enterprise Linux is that it's never just us. That's the thing. This goes back to the proprietary Unix vendors and why they weren't as flexible. Is because what they could do was really contained within their walls. And what's different now is that it's more, Red Hat, we don't do anything alone. We do it together, and that's what makes it work. So we work with our hardware partners, the OEMs like HP, Dell, IBM, Fujitsu, Hitachi, NEC, SGI, on and on and on. And through the collaborative hardware development, testing effort, that's what really makes it special. But it's not just the big guys. It's literally translators around the world that help to make it approachable in all these different languages. We even brought one of our lawyers here. They, let him out of his cage to come talk to you guys about challenges of patents and a lot of other export restrictions that we deal with. So it really is through bringing together all these different talents and skills. That's what really brings it all together. So it's common for people to think of just like the hackers and the developers, but it's really this broad spectrum of professionals that require it to be brought all together. And so this is really a high-level summary of our recipe, how we do our business. So there are literally hundreds of thousands of disparate projects out there. And only a subset of them do we pull into Red Hat Enterprise Linux and Fedora, because we want to, we can't pull everything in. And in some ways, for simplification, we don't want to have 20 of everything. So we really have to pick and choose the right type of projects. And the way that we do that, and this is because Red Hat is a contributor and a participant in literally thousands of different communities. And I think that's one of the things that's really special and unique about us, is because how do you know which parts are ready? You know, if you've got thousands of components and things to choose from, the fact that Red Hat is actively engaged, participating in them, and collaborating, that is what really brings the unique value, because not all of the people who deliver Linux are contributing at the same level and the same diversity. So it really requires this scope and breadth of awareness and participation. So we take, you know, we engage upstream in all these thousands of projects, and what we do is we integrate them into our community release, which we call Fedora. And similarly, we do that for, although this presentation is focused more on enterprise Linux, it similarly applies to the other open source offerings that we have, whether that's our JBoss Java Enterprise middleware, our Red Hat Enterprise Virtualization, which is virtualization system management, and our Rev storage. So we'll be getting into more of those later. But we work with the communities, we integrate them in our fully open source product set, and that enables, through this open source integration like in Fedora, that enables our partners, our customers to really work together to help shape it. And that's really fundamentally what's different than the proprietary Unixes of the world, because people have influence. They can really drive the vision together. So and then from that Fedora integration pool, that's where we take it and we do literally thousands of hardening, fixes, changes to it. And let's talk about some of the steps along the way that we do that. One of the neatest things that I've seen is that's also different than the proprietary Unix is innovation for customers. And I like to draw one specific example. There was a lot of our financial firm customers were paying literally millions of dollars, a lot more than the hardware and the operating system, for high-speed messaging middleware. And so a lot of these financial customers came to us and said, will we work together with them to form a community, because they drew upon our expertise to be able to draw them efforts together. And through Red Hat, engineers applied to it, along with engineers from a lot of the financial firms. They built what became AMQP, which is an advanced message queue protocol. And by working together, we came up with a enterprise offering together that was well tested, well proven, but it was also like 10 times faster than what they were previously paying millions of dollars for. So it's really showing that we bring people's efforts together to commoditize and drive value up the stack. For enterprise hardening, we have over the 10 years that we've been doing Red Hat Enterprise Linux, whenever we hit issues, we put them into our regression test matrix, and we have literally hundreds of systems and matrices. But we also do hardening and testing, not just ourselves, but also we do it together with the broad hardware ecosystem. Not only that, but software vendors participate in our beta testing and the like. So it's really, again, it's not just Red Hat. It's the enterprises brought together through this community collaboration. Hardware enablement is another key enterprise value, and this is something that is easily taken for granted because everybody assumes that, and the hardware vendors want their box to work to have it supported in Red Hat Enterprise Linux before the hardware comes out, so that from day one it just works. And in order to do that requires a huge amount of coordination. We spend crazy amounts of effort just meticulously tracking all these different versions of drivers and the like that the different hardware vendors need. And people take that for granted, but just that level of coordination and planning, that's some of the real value. Because if you look at it, a lot of the things here that the enterprise vendors come to the table with, it's really some of the boring stuff that the community doesn't necessarily gravitate to. You know what I mean? People in the community aren't going to volunteer to track the schedule across, 15 hardware vendors and over 6 months. And so it's a lot of this discipline and regiment that we bring to the table. Security is another major factor that we bring in. And for example, in Red Hat Enterprise Linux, we have something called SE Linux, which is policy and access control at a very fine-grained level. We have that on by default, and that's better than just a contrast to the proprietary Unixes. Like there was Trusted Solaris, which was this fork of the operating system that was always, years behind the mainstream. And so by working, again, not just with Red Hat, but with others like the NSA, National Security Agency, that was the first time in an enterprise product that they were able to be right on the mainstream, to not be, shipwrecked off on the side in an old fork. So it really was a very powerful model. The ISV ecosystem is an enterprise feature that takes a lot of work. For example, the upstream communities are more focused on innovation and feature enhancements. So if they find something that they want to do a new feature, oftentimes they will change the APIs and have a lot of disruption in the environment, which is great from an evolutionary perspective. But from an enterprise perspective, the customers want to be able to have the ISV applications just work, the third-party device drivers just work, and the like. So it's very requires a lot of regiment and discipline in order for us to basically pick and choose the parts we need and to get those that do not introduce incompatibilities into the operating system. Scalability is another main enterprise focus area. Things like working with our partners to do constantly world record-breaking benchmark workloads, things like database, messaging, virtualization, consistently on top, again, through collaborative efforts, not just through Red Hat. And lastly, support. A lot of people think that, hey, that's all the enterprise products is. It's the same stuff you get for free, but you just have someone to call on the phone. But that's not really the point. It's because, sure, the teams that help participate in those communities, to work in the constellations and galaxies of projects, they're the ones who are best prepared to support the product. But for most enterprise customers, they're not satisfied with where we are today, nor should they be, because we're not, because it's not where you are today that matters, it's where we're going together tomorrow. So sure, we've broken down the glass house barriers for the data centers, but it's things like going up the stack, getting that commoditization into enterprise management, cloud, and the like. Just to speak to the value that you can provide in terms of support and driving innovation, getting people beyond and driving value up the stack. This just shows, courtesy of the Linux Foundation and LWN, some kernel contributor statistics. And it's really great to see that it's been pretty consistent that the same companies have been leading for almost a decade in terms of their contributions. So it's really awesome that these companies really see that the value of open source. For example, at Red Hat, we never take the approach that we will keep our code, our innovations private to ourselves for first-to-market advantage. It's really quite interesting that sometimes people will tout that they're the first one to have, you name it, virtualization, cloud. It's kind of ironic that although Red Hat is leading the innovation in many of these spaces, we are rarely the first to market in that. Because for us and my team, it's not about being first. It's about all the things on the prior slide. It's about having the testing, the ISV ecosystem, the support, the security. So it's really taken a more holistic view to put the E in enterprise. So it's not about first. It's really about being best. So having looked at, how do we put this together, now let's look a little bit ahead at how has this resulted? Has this been success? Are we happy with what we've done? And I think together, this has really been a shared accomplishment. Look across the industry. This was the 20th anniversary of Linux, and we can really see that we have changed the world together. It's, we don't just come in the door every day at work and say, oh, this is a job where we're punching the clock. This is nothing short of a crusade. It's that added dimension to it. It really makes you feel like, wow, I'm part of something special. Sure, we're doing, large-scale enterprise servers, but a lot of our code is used in things like one laptop per child. It's using Android. It's the foundation for social media. So, okay, so I'm not working on OLPC myself, but you just know that the value you bring, whether it's uplifting emerging markets and efforts in around the world, it's really been a remarkable space. And so we can see that this innovation that together we brought together, it's really changing the world. And so just as tangible measures, how do I personally rate success? There were a couple of milestones that Red Hat hit this year, and some were financial, but that doesn't really move me and my team. What we really resonate with is that people are using what we're building together, and they're using it to solve real-world problems, and they have great satisfaction with it. So over the past 10 years, and it's hard to believe 10 years has gone by since we started this, today it's used in 50% of all the trading volume is run on a Red Hat Enterprise Linux. We've got 9,000 ISV-supported applications. So it's really grown truly mainstream, truly accepted. We don't have to do those conversations anymore about is it real, is it enterprise, is it trustworthy. We've done that. And so now that we've done that, let's look ahead. Where are we going next? How do we bring this up the stack and to take the same level of innovation and disruption that we've broken down the glass house? What's our new front today? Because it's not the same challenges we had in the past. We continue to evolve and face new challenges going forward. And, it wouldn't be a keynote presentation if I didn't get into the cloud stuff, right? Because that's what it has to be all about. And so the beauty is that Linux has been really at the foundation of driving the cloud. And unlike, we're not displacing entrenched vendors like the UNIX market used to be. Linux, through its collaboration, is really driving it. And what's most interesting about cloud is that it's not some big, monolithic mega company who's pushing it down the customer's throat. It's a grassroots effort. It's built from the bottom up. And nothing is better than grassroots, bottom-up innovation than open source and the open source development model. And just to give some examples of some of the new projects and new technologies that Red Hat has been active in advancement of cloud technology. The first is called OpenShift, which is a platform as a service offering which enables application developers to not have to worry about the mundane tasks of setting up the infrastructure, the operating systems. It really is a cloud-based service that enables application developers to get pre-built images, pre-built profiles, and to plug in modules using Java language, Ruby, Node.js, and a whole variety just to make it simple for them to deploy. And all of these, of course, are open source technologies that Red Hat is fostering. OpenStack has been really the sort of the drumbeat here at LinuxCon, and Red Hat is actively involved in the development of OpenStack. Here's a good example of something that Red Hat is involved in OpenStack, but we are not the first to market. Why? Because in order to have it consumable, usable, robust, hardened, supportable in all languages, there's still work that needs to be done. So we don't think it's quite ready for prime time yet, but it's getting close, and that's why Red Hat is actively involved. And when we do have a responsible product in place, which won't be too far off, then we will we'll share that, of course, with our customers. One of the most exciting things in this past year is Red Hat did the acquisition of Gluster technology, which is just as Linux on x86 commodity computers was disruptive, this is also taking that dimension to the storage front. So Gluster is a way to take commodity components. It could be just regular computers with JBOD disks thrown in them, and it enables them to be used as a very efficient storage server for things like unstructured data, which is increasingly becoming a huge part of the cloud. So this shows that we're not just focusing on RHEL, the operating system. That continues to be a huge part of what we do. But we're building up a stack, we're growing the technologies, and we're never satisfied with what we've done. It's always about where we want to be. And you can see that it's really been Linux that's at the forefront. It's really been this collaborative model that have enabled the growth in these technologies. And whether that started as server, desktop, went into KVM virtualization. Now it's into cloud storage and big data. So it's an exciting environment. You know, what we started with when we started RHEL 10 years ago is not the same world we're in today at all. And it's really the value is what did we bring to the enterprise? In addition to the stability, we've obviated customers from vendor lock-in. You can choose hardware from many different vendors. You can interoperably plug and play different hardwares, different software packages. And it's really the same promise holds true in the cloud. It's only through this collaboration, working together, will the full promise and potential of cloud be reached. One of the themes I saw in attending a lot of the cloud presentations, including some of the IDC statistics that Gary was citing, is that we're really in the early phases of cloud deployment. And in some ways, that's similar to where we were in the early days of Linux deployment, where today it's almost like we were with, you had to get all, in the old days, you had to find a driver over there, you had to get floppies over here. It was kind of like roll your own, put these pieces together. The cloud marketplace is pretty much like that today. It's really finding pieces and components, so it's not fully seamless. There's a lot of parts of varying maturities, and we're going to be using a lot of the same enterprise discipline that we did in the past. But one of the key things is that it never was just Red Hat. It's the community working with Red Hat, working with our customers to drive innovation, working with our hardware and software partners to really put these pieces together to make the sum bigger than any of the parts. And that's what's different from the proprietary Unix days, where all the control, all the resources came out of one box. But here, in our current model, it's really bringing it all together. It's empowering the community, and it's more than what anyone can do together. And so the last 10 years working on Red Hat Enterprise Linux, I can't believe it went by that fast. It was really exciting. But the next 10 years, they're going to be just as disruptive and maybe more. So it's never a dull moment, always a great pleasure to work with the community, with the guys on our team who are part of this crusade. So thanks, everyone, for being part of it. And let's just make this change the world in the next 10 years together, too. Thank you.